Microfinance has engaged more than 150 million people worldwide. I choose the word engaged very deliberately because microfinance is not a one-way service business. It is, by its very definition, a two-way relationship, whether it's in the form of making loan payments, savings transactions, or other financial transactions like insurance or remittances back to one's home place. So we will debate today how successful microfinance has been at ending poverty. But my point here is that microfinance is at least very unique. It fosters relationship with and among poor people in a way that virtually very few other activities do.
I was working as an architectural researcher in the slums of Managua after the big 1972 earthquake, and that took me into the slums, and it took me into the households of poor people, and I had a questionnaire, and I asked them lots of questions about their housing, but I also learned a lot about how they managed their money. And for someone coming from Britain, and this was my first experience of working in a slum, I was astonished at what I learned. Because I had assumed, like many ordinary people would assume, that poor people don't have much money, and therefore they probably don't have financial lives. If you don't have much money, you don't need a bank, presumably if you're very poor, you're living on these very low incomes like $1 a day or $2 a day, presumably as soon as you get the income, you spend it on food and you eat it and that's it, and you wait for the next bit of income to come along and then you eat again. But I discovered in the slums of Managua that wasn't true. That in fact, poor people have very rich financial lives. So in those slums of Managua, I met my first moneylenders and talked to them. I talked to households about the various ways in which they save. People who save money under the mattress, hidden in the roof eaves, put inside hollowed out bamboo, buried in the ground, sewn into their clothes so that they have some money there to pay for their own burial when they die, so that they don't have to pass on the costs of a burial to their loved ones. I discovered, to my huge delight, a large range of savings and loan clubs, which are invented and run by poor people themselves with no outside intervention, no NGOs, no government agencies around to teach them how to do it, but derived from their own feelings, their own understanding of their own financial needs.
This is an industry, when I refer to microfinance, an industry which is sort of coming of age. It's been 30 years. And yet at the same time, we don't really have very, very hard evidence which we can point to that it's actually moving people out of poverty, or at least I'd say the record's mixed. But this is where philanthropic dollars, I think, are particularly powerful in casting and helping to shed light on some of the big issues which many, many donors and actually many believers want to know. So the work's, to answer your question, the work's undone. While there may be 150 million people who've been reached, there are close to, at least as last count, over 2 billion people on the planet who do not have access to any kind of financial service, be it savings or credit. There's huge amount of innovation. While the focus has been largely on credit, and it's now shifting over to more of the asset building kinds of services, savings, insurance, remittances, there's far, far more work to be done to identify new ways to serve populations who are still being marginalized and still who are left out of the reach.